블랙록의 지난해 4분기 말 기준 AUM 규모가 10조 달러, 약 1경 3,155조 원을 넘어섰습니다. 1경 3,155조, 신보다 돈이 많은 금융시장의 제왕들이죠. 사상 최고치를 찍었던 2021년 4분기 때와 비슷한 수준으로 늘어났습니다. 블랙록의 CEO 레리 핑크는 이 회사의 공동 창업자입니다. 그는 1952년생으로 UCLA에서 정치학을 공부했고 1976년에 퍼스트 보스턴의 채권 트레이더로 경력을 시작했으며 1988년에 블랙록을 공동 창업했습니다. 레리 핑크는 블랙록을 세계 최대 자산 운용사로 성장시키는데 큰 역할을 했으며 레리 핑크는 현재는 각국의 대통령, 총리 등과 금융 문제를 논의하는 글로벌 금융 리더입니다. 세계 최대 운용사인 블랙록과 뱅가드. 오늘은 블랙록의 CEO 레리 핑크의 인터뷰를 시청하도록 하겠습니다. 알파 컨덕터 채널 구독과 좋아요, 알림 설정하시면 최신 영상을 가장 빠르게 시청하실 수 있습니다.
To that, you have Jamie Dimon, for example, saying rates in the U.S. could go to 7%, and we're not ready for it. Is he right?
Look, we all have opinions. I mean, I've been saying for over a year.
I want to know your opinion, Larry.
My opinion is we're going to have 10-year rates at least at 5% or higher because of this embedded inflation. This structural inflation is unlike anything. And I think business leaders and politicians are not providing the foundation to help explain this. We have not seen inflation like this in over 30 years. Actually, I was a young bond trader during the late 70s and where we had hyperinflation. I don't think we're going to have anything close to the inflation of the 70s, but we have so much deeper structural inflation, and we are underestimating the change in geopolitics. Is so structurally inflationary. When I was in Davos earlier this year, I heard the phrase national security uttered everywhere. And quite frankly, I never heard those phrases uttered that often before that in all my years. So national security for chips or food or energy, obviously energy, and all these issues. And the question is at what cost? And nobody answers that question, at what cost?
Well, you said politicians, governments, they need to do a better job of explaining this, of talking. What would that actually look like?
Well, I mean, they have to recognize if we are going to focus on the whole idea about restricting immigration. Big topic here in Germany. Big topic in the United States. We are down in the United States close to 3 million legal immigrants. We've changed the immigration policy. At the same time, there's so many job needs. And in the United States, we've had close to $1 trillion of fiscal stimulus just beginning its J-curve. And these are huge job creators. And at the same time, we have restricted immigration. And as a result of it, we see more wage pressure. So at what cost? We have, in the United States, a very protracted strike between the auto workers and the auto companies. It has been reported that the union is asking for a 40% increase. So at what cost? In the long run, what does that mean for jobs? Do more jobs move? This is the conversation we're having now. We are, because of the invasion of Ukraine and the realization in Europe, especially here in Germany, of the dependency in Russian gas, every boardroom is asking themselves, where are our other dependencies?
Yes, but...
And the dependency in China in terms of manufacturing assembly is something that many companies have said we cannot.
Does there need to be leadership, though, to reinvigorate multilateralism? Or is that concept, because in this era of friendshoring, reshoring, is that over? Do we need to rethink that?
Well, globalization is still intact. It's just being reimagined. So whether we have our supply chains out of China, now we're moving them to Vietnam, Philippines, Eastern Europe, Turkey, India. Mexico is one of the real destinations for North American demand. And so this is not global. By no means globalization is over. But as we reimagine these supply chains, there's a reason why so many supply chains were so embedded in China, because that, for years and years and years, was the cheapest, easiest place to do it. And so in many cases, we're moving supply chains at higher costs.
Yes, especially if you're onshoring to either Europe or the U.S., where you're having these labor conversations.
But you may have, all of this means is we're going to be more aggressively moving towards technology to add more productivity, whether it is using more robotics, AI. All of this is going to, in the long run, that's what I'm saying, markets go up and down. We have big changes. We have big changes in labor. We have higher wages. In the long run, companies adapt, businesses adapt.
Right.
But the biggest issue for me, and I say this to every governmental leader I see worldwide, what the world is missing today is hope. I see more fear than any time in my business career.
What are you hopeful about, Larry? What is that hope?
Look, I'm a long-term optimist, and we build BlackRock on optimism. We are the largest retirement manager in the world. Okay, why on earth anybody would ever put their savings into something that may have a 30-year outcome? My gosh, that is optimism. Okay, if you're not optimistic that 30 years hence is a better outcome, you're going to keep all your money in a bank.
Right.
But Danny, what's going on in China is a great example of fear. Before COVID, the Chinese, who are unbelievable savers, they save 35% of disposable income. 35%. Think about that. Now, they did it because there's no safety nets of healthcare like we have here in Germany, no safety nets of retirement, one-child family, all these dynamic issues. During COVID and the fear and the lockdowns and the changes of policies, savings rates in China right now are 50%.
And
that's fear.
And they're struggling to reinvigorate the economy at this point.
Because they're frightened.
But what does that look like on the ground for the investors in the crown? You at BlackRock, how do you look at this? Is there a way to capitalize on it? Do you pull back? What do you do with a problem like this?
Right now, I think in our mega trends, right now we are underinvested in China. We believe structurally until we see savings rates, which is in my mind, when we see savings rates decline and they're consuming more, that's an indication of more hope. That they don't need to save as much, that they can consume, they can do other things. To me, these are very big macro trends. But I just want to say the biggest issue is we as business leaders, we as political leaders, if we don't provide more certainty and more hope, this is what causes recessions. This is what causes pullbacks.
So to be clear, because
look, if central banks can overshoot. If fear becomes worse, then consumers pull back and the recessions are going to become more protracted. We have elections in so many places of the world. We have an election in the United States. We have all that stuff. We are going to have many political candidates who are going to provide a lot of fear,
yes,
unfortunately. And I think the political winner is the one who provides the most hope for the future, or what people believe the hope in the future.
Do you see that, though? Do you see anyone projecting hope?
I dearly hope so. I'm projecting hope.
Larry for president? I don't know.
No, I'm too young.
That is that is very true. Look, you make an excellent point. I think half of the population is going to be in an election next year.
Yeah.
Could we then have a recession based on what you're saying, not by a monetary accident, but by a fiscal accident?
So in my travels seeing governmental leaders, I talk about the need for more public-private investing, whether it is in infrastructure, sustainability, whatever you want to say, power grids. What I see is most democracies are having elevated fiscal deficits. I worry about it. I think it's going to be a crisis in the future. I believe we are hitting thresholds of just too much debt. The only solution we have now is reorienting, reimagining how we finance growth. And I think the way we're going to be able to finance growth is public-private. There's so much private money that is looking for great long-term investments to work, whether that is in power grids or infrastructure, in sustainability, charging stations, you name it. And so in all our conversations is how can we reimagine finance? How can we find a better structure? And how can we then leverage public finance with private capital to augment growth?
Right.
And this is going to be the big key for the next 10 years.
Can I ask about how you're thinking about that at BlackRock? Because you're already the world's largest asset manager. So what is your goal now?
Look, our goal is to provide a better financial future for more human beings. All our money is not a single euro dollar is our money. 100% of our money is our clients' money. We have to do what our clients are looking to do. And I think we are a really good fiduciary, that we work really well with our clients. We give them long-term views. When they ask me what's going on in the market, I really don't have a good answer because I don't really care about the day-to-day. Your business, you care about the day-to-day business. I mean, our job is to give opportunities for long-term investors that they can earn a return and that they can have a healthy life in the future with dignity.
Right.
And that's our job. And so if we can provide that advice to give more people hope with dignity in retirement, then I think we're going to earn more share of wallet.
Right. I mean, a lot of these things are new, but I think we can also learn a lot from the past. I mean, we're an audience with a lot of young business school students and a lot of young investors who haven't seen 5.5% rates before. You've seen it, you've lived through it, you've traded through higher. 1986, a quite infamous story of yours of making a wrong way bet on interest rates that lost First Boston $100 million. With that experience in hand, what is your advice to someone managing risk right now to avoid the mistakes of the past?
Well, that was probably my biggest learning experience of my life. So let's start there. And I promised myself when we lost money and we did not understand the risks we were taking, and that was the foundation of Aladdin, which is the largest risk system in the world. And so you can't avoid risk. In fact, those who avoid risk make no returns. Okay, but you have to be aware of the risk. You have to study risk. You have to be self-aware of the risk you're taking. So I would just say it's just as bad. And actually, in the year before we lost that money, we were the #1 profit center for a couple of years before. We might have been foolish, but everybody loved it when you made a lot of money because we did not understand why we were making so much money. Okay, everybody understand when you lost money.
Right.
So the biggest lesson I ever had in my life was I want to know every moment, every day, as much as possible, the intended risks we're taking. And so the foundation when we started BlackRock 35 years, and 25% of our people were technology people, which was kind of unheard of in the financial services area. And now we have built the largest, most comprehensive risk system that is utilized by governments, by central banks, by insurance companies, by wealth managers, and by pension funds around the world.
When you look at the landscape now of global Wall Street, and I know you have an excellent view of that, do you see people taking undue risk, not applying that lens that you're talking about that concerns you?
Every moment there's some people taking undue risks. Some of them are wildly successful. Okay, there's asymmetric risk everywhere. And the people who are wildly successful, let's be clear, it was probably an asymmetric bet, and they won. The problem is, when you take an asymmetric bet, a lot of people are going to lose. And so let's be clear. The beauty of markets, there are going to be winners and losers. Unless you're in index funds and you're doing a long thing and you're keeping it for the long term, That is not a bad thing. The question is a risk that is occurring within markets, within any individual, does that create a systemic risk? It is not about risk. It's about, does it impinge on the economy? Does it impinge on society? But we should not be running away from risk. If we ran away from risk, when I'm here in Berlin, I see cranes. Okay, that developer is making whatever, it's a 5-year risk of planning. Maybe it's a 7-year risk of planning, building. Is there going to be tenants in that building? That's a risk.
Yeah.
Today, unfortunately, because permitting, I mean, when you want to build a power grid, when you want to build a pipeline, as you prepare for hydrogen or whatever the use may be in a pipeline, what is that, a 15-year plan because of permitting and getting this done? That's the problem why we're not moving fast enough. If we could shorten...
Is that just a regulation issue? There's too much regulation in general? Is that what you're saying?
Regulation is fine if can it be more immediate? No one is questioning the review process, but why can't we, with new technology, with AI, why can't we get the review process in weeks instead of 7 years? Why can't we move the society forward? Okay, that's what we need. And by the way, if we could move the review process down from years to weeks, I promise you, hope will be flourishing because we're going to be able to do things faster to move society forward.
어쩌면 블랙록의 CEO 레리 핑크의 말처럼 직접 투자를 공부할 시간이 없거나 장기간 자산 배분의 관점으로 주식 투자를 하고 싶으신 분들은 블랙록의 ETF를 장기적인 관점으로 투자하는 것도 투자 수익을 얻을 수 있는 하나의 방법이라고 생각합니다. 알파 컨덕터 채널 구독과 좋아요, 알림 설정하시면 최신 영상을 가장 빠르게 시청하실 수 있습니다. 금융시장에서 저와 함께 초과 수익을 위해 도전하는 분들은 레리 핑크의 말처럼 민주주의 대다수 국가들의 재정 적자를 해결할 수 있는 전력망, 지속 가능한 인프라 충전소 등의 재정 성장을 재정립하고 재구상하는 방법에 많은 관심을 기울여야 할 것입니다. 또한 진정한 탄소 중립은 원자력이 될지 지금까지 투자해왔던 태양광, 수력, 풍력, 바이오매스가 될지 말이죠. 정말 많은 시간을 투하해서 공부하고 전략을 만들고 수정 보완하면서 노력해 나가시면 됩니다. 오늘 영상도 시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 금융시장 초과 수익 지휘자 알파 컨덕터였습니다.